Welcome back. We have a somber anniversary, Alabama's census performance, another state ranking, and Charles Barkley challenging your PC sensibilities. I'm Mike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey proclaimed today a day of remembrance on the 10th anniversary of the April 27, 2011 tornado outbreak, reports AL.com's Mike Kaysen. There were 62 confirmed tornadoes that day that killed more than 240 people and injured more than 2,000 more. Some of the counts can vary, which is just more evidence as to how many people were affected that day. The governor has directed that flags fly at half-staff today. Read more on the April 27 tornadoes, anniversary reflections, and that outbreak's place in meteorological history at al.com/weather. After all the concern over Alabama's stagnant population growth, it turns out that we won't lose congressional representation after all. We also won't lose an electoral vote in presidential elections, and we won't lose as many federal dollars that are based on our proportion of the U.S. population. AL.com's Ramsey Archibald reports that the official state counts for the 2020 U.S. Census are out, and that Alabama's population was high enough to keep our 7 congressional representatives and 9 electoral votes for another decade. There had been a lot of worrying headed into the census that we would slip, but estimates that came out a few months ago made it look like we were in the clear. It turns out that relief was warranted, and then some. That is, Alabama came in above even those population estimates. Officially, there are now 5,030,053 Alabamians. Elsewhere, it looks like Texas will add 2 congressional seats. Others adding a seat include Colorado, Montana, Oregon, North Carolina, and Florida. States losing seats include California, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and New York. With Alabama's statewide population growing faster than we realized, based on the 2020 U.S. Census, it's pretty clear that people moving into the state didn't bother to read listicle rankings of the best states to live in. Recently making the rounds was a YouGov listing that had us 50th, ahead of Washington, D.C., thank you very much, but that ranking was based on people's perceptions. Now AL.com's Lita Gore reports there's a U.S. News ranking out that put us at 46th out of 50 states, ahead of West Virginia, New Mexico, Mississippi, of course, and Louisiana. U.S. News used data that measure how well states are performing for their citizens. Healthcare, education, the economy, roads, bridges, internet, all the secrets to happiness. A couple of the areas Alabama scored the lowest were healthcare at 45th and education at 47th. Infrastructure, we came in 28th, which might imply that folks can at least come and go as they please. The 3 top-ranked states, by the way, were Washington, Minnesota, and Utah. Charles Barkley might want to pull out his get-out-of-cancel culture free card and get it punched again. AL.com's Mark Heim reports that Barkley has received some heat for a rivalry joke that might have gone over better a couple decades ago. Barkley, a former Auburn and NBA star, was on TNT doing analysis of highlights of a game that featured former Georgia Bulldog Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Now, there are a million college jokes between rivals such as Auburn and Georgia, and some are interchangeable and some are pinned to teams' locations or nicknames. Said Barkley, quote, "Georgia is the only school in the world that they named their mascot after the women down there." Now, look, Barkley's been criticized for previous jokes he's made. He once drew heat from the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance, for example. Co-host Ernie Johnson Jr. told Barkley the comment was uncalled for. There are times you do stand up for what's right, and Johnson, after all, is a Georgia grad. Thank y'all for listening. We'll be back here again tomorrow. Until then, stop by and see us anytime you can on the World Wide Web at al.com.